This is KBS World Radio, the overseas service of the Korean Broadcasting System, coming to you from Seoul, the capital of the Republic of Korea. We now begin today's English broadcast on KBS World Radio. From Seoul, Korea, KBS World Radio News starts right now. On today's broadcast, President Moon Jae-in and President Trump reaffirm their tight alliance against North Korean threats but appear to be at odds over their trade deal. The statues unveiled outside the city of Atlanta to remember victims of Japan's sex slavery, and a Korean film festival in Toronto features 16 movies. This is KBS World Radio News. I'm Bruce Harrison. The presidents of South Korea and the U.S. held a summit at the White House on Friday. The two sides agreed to seek pressure and dialogue to lead to the denuclearization of North Korea. However, the two sides will now have to iron out differences in terms of trade and defense costs. Kim Bum-soo has more.
The era of strategic patience with the North Korean regime has failed. Many years, and it's failed. And frankly, that patience is over.
South Korean President Moon Jae-in and U.S. President Donald Trump have reaffirmed the airtight alliance to resolve the North Korean nuclear and missile threats. Following their first summit at the White House on Friday, the two leaders held a joint news conference and revealed the direction of their collaboration down the road.
Our two leaders will employ both sanctions and dialogue in a phased and comprehensive approach. Based on this, we both pledge to seek a fundamental resolution of the North Korean nuclear problem.
The United States calls on other regional powers and all responsible nations to join us in implementing sanctions and demanding that the North Korean regime choose a better path. We will never forget.
But Seoul and Washington will have to iron out differences in terms of trade and defense costs. While promising to stand by South Korea against North Korean threats, Trump told reporters that Seoul and Washington will ensure that the cost of keeping the U.S. troops in South Korea will be spread fairly between the two sides.
We're also working to create a fair and reciprocal economic relationship. From when the U.S.-Korea trade deal was signed in 2011.
South Korean presidential officials said that the two sides have not decided to renegotiate the terms of the trade pact. Instead, President Moon proposed to launch a joint survey on the actual impact of the South Korea-U.S. free trade agreement to both economies. The two presidents are now expected to hold more discussions on pending issues later this year. During the summit, the South Korean president invited the U.S. president to visit Seoul this year. Trump accepted the offer. Kim Bum-soo, KBS World Radio News.
Amid discussions of the U.S.'s transfer of wartime operational control, or OPCON, to South Korea, Presidents Moon Jae-in and Donald Trump agreed that Seoul should take the lead in the Allied forces' defense against North Korea. Following the summit at the White House on Friday, the two presidents issued a joint statement to lay out policy directions in 6 areas. In the statement, the two sides specified that South Korea will continue to acquire the critical military capabilities necessary to lead the combined defense, including the establishment of the interoperable kill chain preemptive strike system, while stating that the allies will continue collaboration to peacefully achieve a verifiable and irreversible denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. The U.S. also especially supported Seoul's leading role in fostering an environment for peaceful unification of the two Koreas. President Moon Jae-in says he and President Trump will not pursue a hostile policy against North Korea. Speaking at the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington Friday evening, Moon said the allies do not want to attack North Korea or induce a regime collapse, while noting that Seoul and Washington will not seek to accelerate the unification of the two Koreas against Pyongyang's own intentions. Moon also argued that denuclearization is the only way for the regime to ensure its safety and economic development. He said the door to dialogue is wide open, urging Pyongyang to make the right decision at an important crossroads and seize the opportunity toward peace and prosperity.
You are now listening to the news from KBS World Radio's News Center in Seoul, Korea.
Another U.S. city has erected a statue to remember the victims of Japan's wartime sexual slavery. The statue is also a reminder of human rights abuses that continue to this day. KBS had reporters there to watch the unveiling. Our Kim So-yeon tells us more.
A statue of a girl symbolizing victims of Japan's wartime sexual slavery was unveiled near the city of Atlanta on Friday as the first such peace statue to be erected in the southern U.S. The unveiling ceremony took place Friday morning at Blackburn 2 Park in Brookhaven in the suburbs of Atlanta amid drizzling rain. 90-year-old South Korean victim Kang Il-chul also attended the ceremony and touched the statue with tears in her eyes.
I really want to thank the American people and Korean Americans for remembering and making efforts to remember this horrible history that happened to us Koreans by the Japanese. Thank you so much.
Kang testified that she was dragged by Japanese troops at age 16 from her hometown, Sangju, North Gyeongsang Province. She recalled that her family was relatively wealthy and owned an orchard. Brookhaven Mayor John Arthur Ernst said that establishing the memorial will raise awareness about ongoing sex and human trafficking.
The city of Brookhaven is proud to join a growing list of progressive cities around the world that have installed this memorial to recognize and comfort women and to talk about their suffering.
The unveiling drew more global attention following recent controversial remarks by Japanese Consul General in Atlanta, Takashi Shinozuka. While opposing the statue's establishment, he described victims of Japanese wartime sex slavery as paid prostitutes. Global media covered the event, including the Associated Press, as well as Japan's NHK and Tokyo Broadcasting System. Korean American residents in the U.S. said they will install more statues in larger U.S. cities like Atlanta until the Japanese government sincerely apologizes for its wartime aggression. Kim So-yeon, KBS World Radio News.
South Korea's exports have risen for the 8th month in a row thanks to the recovering global economy and diversification of export items and markets. The Ministry of Trade, Industry, and Energy said Saturday that outbound shipments came to $51.4 billion in June based on a tentative tally. It's the second highest monthly record to date since the government began compiling export and import data. South Korea is expected to rank number 6 globally in terms of the number of smartphone users by the end of this year. According to data compiled by Strategy Analytics, South Korea's smartphone penetration rate is estimated to reach 77.7% this year, hovering above the United States, which is expected to post a comparable figure of 75.6%. The 6th Toronto Korean Film Festival opens at the University of Toronto on July 12th. The documentary film Weekends by director Lee Dong-ha will open the festival, which continues through the 16th. A total of 16 films will be screened this year, including Snowy Road, directed by Lee Na-jung. And that's the news from KBS World Radio's News Center in Seoul. I'm Bruce Harrison.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Saturday Mailbag Show, KBS Listeners Lounge, coming to you from Seoul, the capital of South Korea.
It's Saturday, July 1st, 2017, and as always, we've got the latest listeners' letters, messages, and reports we receive from you coming right up.
So please stay tuned. I'm Lawrence Taylor.
And I'm Kim Ji-eun. We'll be right back. Hi, Lawrence.
Hi, Ji-eun. How are you today?
I'm doing good, but just before we turned on the microphones and started talking, we were talking about the weekend plans, and I still have not figured out my answer because Lawrence asked me what I had plans for the weekend, and for the life of me, I can't remember. I just know that I'd written something down on the calendar.
Well, let's see if it comes to you during the show.
I hope so.
Yeah. Anyway, it's hard to believe it's actually already July now.
I know. Today is actually the 182nd day of the year, and we have 183 days left in the year. We're literally halfway done with 2017.
Right. Are we halfway done with the year, or is there half left?
Well, I guess that depends on how much you've achieved or accomplished in the first half of the year, right? Like, how would you rate the first half of your year?
It's been a very busy time for me. Of course, in April I started working here and I moved to Seoul. Also, last weekend I turned 30, so a lot of big changes. I'd probably give myself a B+. What about you?
I'm going to have to give myself a C+, or maybe a B-, which is the grade that I hated the most in college, but I did manage to squeeze in a few short and long trips here and there. So in terms of time well spent, I think I did pretty good. But looking back on my New Year resolutions, though, I didn't exercise very much, and I read half as much as I said I would. But I guess I have a whole half of a year left to fix that.
That's right. I guess the year's half point is a perfect time to look back on the resolutions you made at the beginning of the year, kind of like an interim report or assessment, and kind of recompose yourself and readjust your course for the rest of the year.
Right. So why not give yourselves a pat on the back for all the hard work you did in the first half of the year, and maybe even set some new half-year resolutions?
Sounds good. Now it is also the first Saturday of the month, so it's time for some birthday shout-outs.
That's right. She had what's likely to be her last show for a while just last weekend, but she's still very much a big part of KBS, so we're keeping her on this list. Karen Choi, her birthday falls on July 21st.
And your birthday is just 2 days after that, right, isn't it, Jim?
That's right.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. Our listener, Dr. S.S. Bhattacharya of India, let us know that his birthday falls on July 27th, so happy early birthday to you too.
And is there anybody else?
Well, Canada turns 150 years old today, so happy birthday, Canada, and happy Canada Day to all our Canadian listeners out there.
Sounds good. I have to have some poutine to celebrate.
Ooh, sounds good.
We'll move on to the letters and reports of the week very soon. But before we do that, here's another quick reminder about our overseas listener satisfaction survey.
Thank you to those who've already completed the online survey and those who've sent us the hard copies. It's been quite wonderful seeing our mailboxes fill up.
For those who are yet to take part, you can take our online survey on our website at world.kbs.co.kr, and you can also find the link on our Facebook page.
And please remember that as for the physical copies, only those that reach us before the end of August will be counted, so please keep that in mind.
For more information on the survey, please visit our website at world.kbs.co.kr.
And we'll be right back with this week's letters and reports after a quick break, so don't go away.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to KBS Listeners Lounge on KBS World Radio. It's time now for us to take a look at the listener letters and reception reports. As usual, we've received some fantastic handwritten, typed up, and emailed comments, letters, and reception reports from you, our listeners, and we'll share some of those with you on this program.
We'll start this portion of today's show with a handwritten letter from our listener Hidemitsu Miyake of Hiroshima, Japan. Hidemitsu has once again gifted us with some wonderful brochures, pamphlets, and maps of Hiroshima and Ehime in the mail. Thank you so much for these, as always, Hidemitsu. They feel like such lovely invitations to your region every time we get these, and I think it's also wonderful because we can feel that you have so much love and pride for your hometown. And you know what? I actually found found out just earlier this year, I think it was just a month ago, that my cousin lived in Ehime for a year. That was more than 10 years ago. But yeah, it's funny how the name Ehime would come up twice in my life within a span of a month, right? Yeah, maybe it's a sign that I should visit.
That's definitely a sign. I think you should start looking for flights now.
Yeah.
Taking a look at his reception report, Hidemitsu said that he listened to us on June 17th from 0200 to 0258 hours UTC on 9.580 megahertz. He used a Sony ICF SW77 receiver with an AN10 wide-range antenna to tune in, and that yielded a SINPO rating of between 44333 and 45443, with slight interference. He gave us some details on the programs he heard, and unfortunately, he said he was disappointed not to have received a reply to his letter back in April, and we're very sorry to hear that. We believe a QSL card was sent out to you at the end of the month, so maybe it was lost like he said. But nonetheless, we'll check with UNO again to make sure that your verification is received to you this time. Thank you for letting us know, and thank you for your report.
Our next letter is also from Japan, from listener Nonaka Ichiro of Hyogo, Japan. Nonaka listened to us on June 13th on 9.570 megahertz from 2200 to 2230 hours KST, which converts to 1300 to 1330 hours UTC. He used an ELAD FDM DUOR or SDR receiver with a 303WA-2 Apex radio passive antenna to tune into us, and said that the SINPO stood at 44433. He noted that a Chinese station on a nearby frequency was interfering with our broadcast. He gave us some details of the contents he heard and wrote, "This is the first time I am writing a report to your station. I cannot write English well, so my report is incomplete. I apologize. But I enjoyed your English programs. South Korea is my favorite country, so I often listen to the news programs on your station. I will continue to listen to your station."
Well, welcome to KBS Listeners Lounge, Nonaka. And Nonaka has also enclosed a beautiful Japanese stamp with a painting of irises, along with the Universal Postal Union coupon. Now, a lot of first-time listeners will send us these, but please note there's actually no need to do this. We will happily and gratefully receive your country's stamps, but please don't worry about the postage for the QSL cards. We'll take care of them. I think UNO usually sends these back to the senders, so again, we'll talk to her about this as well. Anyway, thank you very much for your consideration as well as your report.
And here's one more letter from Japan. Listener Hayato Furukawa of Nagasaki City also tuned in to us via 9.570 megahertz on June 18th from 1300 to 1400 hours UTC. A Texan PL310EJ receiver was used with the rod antenna, and the SINPO was rated 3 across the board. And I know we always mention this whenever we get a letter from Hayato, but again, what an amazing penmanship, right? My handwriting's become so ugly lately because I don't write often. I have nothing to write. And I usually just type everything, so it hurts to even hold a pen. It's not that my writing was anywhere close to being this nice to begin with, but Hayato actually really inspires me to practice writing like a kindergarten child. Thank you very much for that, and of course for your reception report.
Moving along, here's another report for the same frequency. Listener Sutomu Bong of Indonesia sent us an email to tell us that he listened to us on 9.570 megahertz from 1300 to 1400 hours UTC on June 24th, rating the SINPO 33443. He tuned in again the following day at the same time and on the same frequency, and at this time the SINPO stood at 33343. On June 26th, he tuned in to us on 9.570 megahertz again, this time from 0800 to 0900 hours UTC, and he rated the SINPO at 4 across the board. He said he used a Kyowa KWM 812 receiver with a telescopic antenna, and he added that he wants to know about the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics and also Korean Olympics history.
That's right. The 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympic Games is just 7 months away. I thought it would never come. And it's only 7 months away.
Right,
according to its website, it's exactly 223 days away. It'll run from February 9 through 25 of 2018, of course, and about 79 nations are set to participate in 102 events in 15 different disciplines of 7 sports. This will be the second Olympic Games hosted by South Korea following the 1988 Summer Olympics held in Seoul. We won't spend too much time talking about the Olympics or Korea's history associated with it on this particular program, though, but I'm sure we'll be having loads of specials on the Olympics in the near future, so keep tuning into KBS World Radio. Thank you very much for your report, Sutomo.
We don't get many reports on 9.570 megahertz from outside of Asia, but we actually received one all the way from Nevada, US this week. Listener Jim Bunch left us an online reception report saying that he listened to us on the frequency from 1300 to 1320 hours UTC on June 24th. He rated the SINPO 44433, so not only did he pick up the signal, but the signal was also good and the overall condition was fair, so that's great news. Jim also tuned into us on June 29th from 1400 to 1420 hours UTC on 9.880 megahertz, and on that day he rated the SINPO 44334. Thank you very much for your reports. Continuing with some reports on 9.880 megahertz, listener SB Sharma of India sent us an email and said that he listened to us on 9.880 megahertz from 1400 to 1600 hours UTC on June 25th. He used a Texan A450 receiver with a Texan antenna and said that the reception was good, rating the SINPO at 43344. He shared with us some of the content he could hear on the broadcast, and he also said, "Your information brings Korea closer to us. KBS World Radio brings Korea to just beside our ears. Now Korea is not so far. Thanks very much, KBS World Radio."
Well, thank you so much for your report as well as that lovely comment. We've also noticed that you mentioned your post has been getting lost. We're not sure if registered mail is actually possible on this end anymore, but we'll make sure that Yuna gets the message. Thank you for letting us know, and we're sorry about your inconveniences. Now, our old friend Prithviraj Purkayastha of India sent us an email. He wrote, "Greetings. Hope you all at KBS World Radio are keeping fine by the grace of God. I'm also fine here. It gives me immense pleasure to send you a reception report after a long time. I'm always listening to your programs and on regular basis too, but because of very busy work schedule, I could not write to you." Well, it's wonderful to hear from you again, Prithviraj.
And as for his reception report, he wrote that he listened to us on 9.880 megahertz on June 25th from 1410 to 1505 hours UTC using an Anjan DTS-10 digital receiver with an external long wire antenna. He noted that the reception was quite clear until 1459 hours UTC, but from 1500 hours UTC, China Radio International became so strong, making KBS almost inaudible, rating the SINPO at 44334 until 1459 hours UTC and 32222 from 1500 hours UTC onwards.
Prithviraj also included a message for Karen saying that he recorded some parts of K-Pop Interactive and posted on his Facebook page, so we'll tell Karen to check it out. Thank you very much, Prithviraj, and again, it's really nice to hear from you. Next, we have a few reports from listener S.S. Bhattacharya of India, who is, of course, a fellow July baby. And he listened to us on 3 different frequencies on June 24th. He listened to us on 9.880 megahertz from 1400 to 1600 hours UTC and gave it an SIO rating of 4 across the board. From 1600 to 1630 hours UTC, he tuned into us on 9.640 megahertz and 9.515 megahertz, and also rated the SIO 444 for both those frequencies. He said he used a Grundig YB400 receiver with a 20-meter long dipole antenna. He also asked a couple of questions. He said, question number 1, what's the Korean legal system like? And number 2, how about Korean mineral resources and mining industry?
Well, here's what we found. Because Korea was occupied by Japan from 1910 to 1945, the Korean legal system resembles a Japanese system. After the occupation, however, there were many attempts to adopt different aspects of the American legal system. It must be remembered that the first civilian government commenced only in 1993 here, and thereafter increasingly more democratic reforms have taken place. The legal system here is based on civil or codified law, while court precedents are not granted official status as law.
And as for the mining industry, the country's natural resources include coal, graphite, molybdenum, tungsten, and lead. However, the mining and quarrying sector is not the primary contributor to the country's economy, unlike in North Korea. Hope those answered your questions. Thank you for your report and these interesting questions that we would never have thought of looking up the answers to. Next up, we have reception reports and messages from our UK monitor, Alan Holder. Alan sent us his logs dated June 18 through the 26th, during which time he checked our broadcasts on 7.275 megahertz, 9.515 megahertz, 11.810 megahertz, and 15.575 megahertz. Unfortunately, out of the 14 reports the best SINPO rating was 35333, logged on June 24th on 9.515 megahertz between 1600 and 1700 hours UTC. The rest, well, I don't want to use the word rubbish, but let me just say that there were a lot of ones and twos.
And here's what Alan wrote. No signals heard on 15.575 megahertz this past week. On some days, a weak signal had been heard in the UK from the back of your antenna at Kimje. There was a very unreliable signal on 11.810 megahertz. Often nothing was heard. Poor to fair at best with fading. There was a weak signal on 9.515 megahertz, but this improves during the Korean program later in the evening. Your signal was not heard for many weeks on 7.275 megahertz. The usual interference from China, Radio International on 7.275 megahertz, and Vietnam on 7.280 megahertz. I have mostly been listening to KBS on Wink via your website, as the radio reception of KBS in the UK has been pretty poor of late on most days. He also wrote us a letter welcoming Gian back after her vacation and commented on her meeting with Lauren by chance.
Thank you for that welcome, and your name came up a lot when I was talking to Lauren too. And Alan also wished Lawrence a happy big 3-0 and said, I hope that your celebrations went well, Lawrence, and you did not end up with a big hangover.
Let's just say I was fine by Monday morning at least. Alan also mentioned that there was a heat wave in the UK. Actually, it's something I heard about from my parents. Actually, back home in England, both the people and the infrastructure is not built for... If it goes above 30 degrees Celsius, then that's it. It's kind of a collapse. But it's come to an end now, and now it's back to the usual changeable summer weather there. He commented on a number of programs he particularly enjoyed over the past couple of weeks, and he went on to give us some very valuable comments on the reception. Here's what he wrote. On the subject of the reception, it is quite clear, according to listener letters from South Asia, that the second hour of the English broadcast for India is being blocked by the Chinese. I strongly suggest that 9.880 megahertz is dropped in favor of 9.405 megahertz. KBS English seems very reluctant to make frequency changes. However, the KBS Russian service made one change last winter and another just a few weeks ago, which improved the reception. So there is no reason why mid-season adjustment cannot be made now to benefit your listeners in the Indian subcontinent. How about testing on 9.405 megahertz for a few days to see if it works out?
Well, Alan, it's not that we're reluctant. We're never reluctant. It's more that we don't really get a lot of say for various reasons. And, most of the other language services have fewer than the broadcast slots that we have. So that's actually one of the reasons why they get to switch around more than we do. But yeah, thank you very much for your suggestion, though. It could not have come at a better time, as we are currently in the talks for the B-17 season. But as for your comments about needing to change the frequency 4 times a year to match the changing seasonal conditions for Western Europe and North America, or getting back to local relays, I'm sad to say that it does not look likely that they'll allow us to do that just at this moment in time. We've put in the request many times for the relays, actually, and we do understand that that is the best way possible, but they keep turning us down. I wish I knew why, but they keep on turning us down, and so we'll of course continue to ask, as we always do. Though we hope you'll understand, and we thank you so much for your patience and your dedication.
Well, that's all we have for you this week on KBS Listeners Lounge. We hope you enjoyed the show. This has been Lawrence Taylor.
And this has been Kim Ji-eun. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you have a wonderful weekend.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you for tuning in to KBS World Radio. KBS World Radio is Korea's flagship international broadcaster, airing in 11 different languages. The English service of KBS World Radio broadcasts 2 hours a day for various media outlets, including shortwave radio, satellite radio, and internet. Visit our website at world.kbs.co.kr, where you can stream all of our content on our internet radio Wink by tuning into various channels like Wink 24 and Wink Music. Wink is also available on mobile if you download our on-air app onto your mobile phone.
Visit our Facebook page at www.facebook.com/EnglishKBS or follow us on Twitter at KBS World Radio. You can also email us at english@kbs.com.